All right, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Timeout with Doc and Caveman. As always, you are here with Dr. Fantasy and the Fantasy Caveman. We are here today with our players of the week. Before we dive into that, I just want to remind everybody to subscribe on YouTube, like this video, or if you prefer, you can follow us wherever you listen to audio podcasts. So we won't delay any further. We are here for our players of the week. Just a reminder that the new week starts on Sunday, so this is through Saturday. So, Caveman, let's start in the Eastern Conference. Who is your Eastern Conference player of the week?
All right. My Eastern Conference player of the week is Jimmy Butler. They want. They have 4 games this week, and he had one bad game. He had one not like, versus the Nets he only had 17 points, but he also had 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals, and a block. You look at you go game by game versus the Magic. He had 36 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 steals. I just mentioned the Nets line. Versus the Hornets, he had 32 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and a block. And then versus the Grizzlies, he had 27, 5, 7, and 3 steals. So Jimmy Butler was a driving force for them going 4-0 this week, and he was just sensational. And I really think this week is now put him on the MVP map, if we're being honest about it. I think if the Heat are going to take that next step and be actual title contenders this year, I think Jimmy Butler is going to have a lot more weeks like this.
And what was their record this week, Caveman? They're 4-0, right? The Heat this week, so that always is a big factor for you as well. So, I think that the Heat already look like they are in late season form. They're looking incredible right now. So I think Jimmy Butler's worthy. Statistically speaking, I'll go and once again, since you're gonna take all the good players of the week, I'll give it.
He played the Magic, but he also had played the Nets, Hornets, and Grizzlies, which are 3 very quality opponents.
Yeah.
So it's not like they
beat
up on the Magic and the Thunder. He had 3 of the 4 games were very quality opponents.
All right, since you took this guy, then didn't really. They didn't have the greatest week in terms of winning, but statistically he put up the best week. So I'm gonna give it to your boy Giannis. Giannis had a very effective week the last week. He led the NBA in points for the last week with over 32, 13 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 1.7 blocks. Had himself quite the week. So, I would. Jimmy Butler would have been probably my top, but I'll give it to Giannis. So we have 2 different ones. Other guys that were in consideration, Jason Tatum, another guy that had a really nice week, averaging over 30 points a game. The one that I really wanted to give it to, and a team that we'll continue to talk about, a team that I was high on, and when we did the individual team preview, and I started off really hot, the Washington Wizards. I really wanted to give it to Bradley Beal, who I think deserves a lot of.
Bradley Beal was my number 2 choice this week.
Yeah, I think Bradley Beal and what the Wizards are doing, he deserves a lot of credit as well.
They won 3 out of their 4 games. They only lost to the Nets.
Yep. So. Yeah, when you look at the teams that were hot this week, you look at the Knicks, Heat, Wizards, and Bulls are all 5-1 right now, sitting atop the East. Demar Derozan had a really nice week as well for the Bulls, averaging 26 points, which was 7th in the league for the past week. So DeRozan also gets a little bit of a shout out as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to the not as exciting Western Conference.
Yeah.
Who do you have for the West, Caveman? Go ahead.
I have Steph Curry.
No, are you kidding me?
I'm not. No, I'm just kidding. He's my number 2 this week. I didn't give it.
Yeah, he was in my top 4.
But I gave it to Anthony Davis. I mean, they won 2 out of 3. I mean, I almost gave it to Steph because the Anthony Davis and the Lakers lost to the Thunder, so I almost gave it to Steph Curry because of that. But nah, I look at Anthony Davis. I mean, he poured in versus the Spurs, poured in 35 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks.
That all?
Reminding us that he's still a defensive force for them. He's gonna, based on how he looked defensively this season, they're gonna need Anthony Davis to be everything and then some on the defensive end. Versus the Thunder in a loss, still put up 30 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Didn't have the greatest game versus Cleveland. Only scored 15 points, 9 rebounds, 1 steal, but did have 3 blocks. So, I mean, the Western Conference was kind of underwhelming as a whole in terms of picking out players of the week, in my opinion. But yeah, I'll go with Anthony Davis, and then I won't. Steph was my number 2. I wasn't gonna give it to him 2 weeks in a row. Had they went.
I mean, you could.
Had they have beaten Memphis and went 4-0, I would have given it to him. But
yeah, I mean, when you're looking at some of the top options, I mean, just statistically speaking, Anthony Davis had the combination that you're looking for. He had a nice week statistically, averaging almost 27 points, 11 boards. He was 5th in the league in scoring this week. Other guys, I considered Devin Booker, who was 3rd in the league in scoring, but he only played 2 games technically this week. So to me, I didn't want to give it to him for 2 games. Steph Curry had a nice week, scoring over 26. The Lakers did go 3-1 too, and with LeBron banged up, Anthony Davis definitely had to step up. Russell Westbrook statistically has been okay, but if you watch them, the turnovers that he has have really been a detriment to them. So statistically speaking, so I'm just going to go in a different direction here because, I mean, they're all interesting names, but I'm going to give it to Dejante Murray, who actually had a really, really nice week. And people, no, I mean,
I know, yeah, he would have been in my
He had an incredible week. He had 22 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, so he almost averaged a triple-double this week, shooting 55% from the field. They got a win against the banged-up Bucks. That's not saying very much.
Okay, they're down Holiday and Lopez, so.
Doesn't matter. It's still a win is a win. But yeah, no, I mean, he's a guy that, when the NBA releases their player of the weeks, I would realistically expect it to be Jimmy Butler and Anthony Davis. Last week it was Steph Curry and Miles Bridges, who we didn't even talk much about, but he had himself a nice week as well.
You gave him a shout out last week, but he wasn't in.
I did give him a shout out, so that's fair enough. But yeah, so the Western Conference, kind of interesting when you look at the standings right now. A lot of the top end teams in the league all are playing in the East right now. So the Eastern Conference Player of the Week, a little more competitive. On the West side, much tougher to pick. So to me, I'm just looking more at the stats and individual performance. I mean, when you're looking at the Spurs, they haven't been very good this season, but so far, you're at least seeing Dejante Murray take that step forward, and we haven't really seen anyone else on the Spurs that has done that. So we'll see. Maybe that'll be a positive development for them this season.
Top 5 in assists right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's 3rd in the league in assists, and then he's averaging 8.5 rebounds too. So, and still playing top-notch defense. So
I don't know if 8.5 rebounds is sustainable for a season, but.
Oh, is that a challenge? Sure it is. Nah, I mean, he's always been a good rebounder. What he averaged last year, 6, I think, around there. So that's realistically, maybe he ends up in the 7 range. But yeah, actually, he was at 7.1 last season. So, I mean, it's not that far off. A little bit of an improvement. But so that's there. a few shout outs to the rookies that were played well. We did see Cade Cunningham's debut this week.
Not
He gets an
great.
anti-shutout because it was embarrassing how bad he was. The Pistons did
I
up,
think that was
and
expected though. I'm not really surprised.
they did cap his minutes too. He only played 19. There's reports that that's going to be the only time that his minutes are going to be capped. So that'll be something to monitor for next week, and maybe we'll be shouting him out in a more positive light. But he went 1 from 8 from the field, 0 from 5 from the 3-point line. He chipped in 7 rebounds, so I mean, was doing something, I guess. But it was a pretty rough debut. The team did get the win, so that's all that they're going to care about. But that's something to look for. Scotty Barnes continues to be really hot, really leading that Raptors team defensively. Had some really big games this week as well, and the Raptors as a unit played really well this week. But he scored 21 points in back-to-back games, 9 and 12 rebounds in those games. So very effective overall. And the Raptors have won their last 3. So two against the Pacers, 1 against the Magic. So not the most quality opponents this early in the season, but the Pacers I think are better than they're playing. So Scotty Barnes, another decent week. Chris Duarte continued to score at a pretty solid clip, averaging 15 points this week. Probably the only Evan Mobley had a decent week, except he really struggled in his last game. He only scored 2 points in his last outing against the Suns last night. Well, our last night. By the time we post this, it won't be last night. The other guys that I had, both from the Magic, Jalen Suggs looked much better last week, and then Franz Wagner has been very effective for that Magic team defensively, averaged over 12 points last week. So he's definitely not a guy that's going to put up sexy numbers. And we kind of saw and we kind of knew coming out of Michigan that he was pretty developed and ready to contribute. And he's shown that very early in the season. Jalen Suggs so far has been kind of overshadowed by Cole Anthony, who's been really, really good lately and really leading that Magic squad. But Suggs definitely, it makes me proud. I mean, I do. I like Cole Anthony. I think him and Suggs are going to be fun to watch in the future. I think they both have a lot of potential, and you saw a little bit of that last week, although they weren't in the getting the W's that they hoped for. But any other shout outs you want to give to anybody? Who's that?
Jonathan Kuminga finally saw some action.
Oh yeah, Kuminga made his debut as well. That was anticlimactic as well. I don't believe he did much. Well, he scored 3 points, I believe. But yeah, he did make his debut. So
Jalen Green had that one game versus Boston last week where he scored on technically the week before where he scored 30, and then he followed it up with 10 points on 4 of 16, and then 13 points on 3 of 16. So Jalen Green continues to, for the most part, struggle.
Yep, that's for sure. And we get to talk about players that were cold too. Did you come up with any? Because I have a few in mind.
I mean, I just mentioned one.
Jaylen Green's your disappointment. Can we talk about LaMelo being disappointing then?
No. He's exempt.
No, we're gonna pass on that.
He's exempt.
Well, LaMelo was terrible this week, so it's worth mentioning. He in his last 2 games, he went 3 for 14 from the field, 2 for 14 against the Heat. I mean, to me, yeah, he gets a pass. I mean, I think the thing that I've seen, I'm interested to see how teams defend him moving forward. The Miami Heat are one of the best defensive teams early in the season, and that's probably not going to go anywhere. So, I want to see LaMelo. He's still 20, but I want to see him be able to carve up a defense against a good defense, and we haven't quite seen that from him yet. So he's still going to have his bumps. I think everybody, only you thought he was going to be the MVP after opening night. You're like, is it possible? I'm like, no, he's not going to win the MVP, Caveman. Get that out of your mind right now. He is not going to become I can't say he won't become the youngest MVP because, he's still got another 2 years probably until he passes what Derrick Rose was. But he Yeah, LaMelo Ball is my disappointment of the week. That's the only reason we added that, is because I wanted to bring it up.
Mine would probably be Jaylen Green, because I expected that 30-point game for him. They're really okay. That's kind of what he needed to kickstart, but then he followed it up with like 3 of 16 and 4 of 13. So
yeah, and even more concerning, I mean, he's taking a ton of threes early in the season. He's taken 6, 5, 10, 9, and 8. The last 2 games, he's been 2 for 17 from 3. 2 for 17. That is absolutely embarrassing. That's not just bad, that's embarrassing. So, anyone else you want to mention?
No, that's what's weird. What I was weird about this week is there wasn't anybody that was overtly impressive, but at the same time, nobody like stood out in a big way in terms of just going cold and being a huge disappointment.
Yeah. Oh, I want also Josh Getty had a pretty solid week for the rookies as well. He's been getting more minutes, averaged almost 12.6 rebounds and 6 assists. So he's been playing pretty.
Josh Giddey's gonna be. Oh no, I'll save it. I'll save it for our next episode.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with Josh Giddey. I was throwing another. I had a Western Conference disappointment as well. Mine has been Michael Porter, who hasn't been very good so far this season. I think I wasn't the only one that thought that he was going to be in for a big season after kind of his breakthrough last year. Only averaged 10 points this week, and he has been definitely not the 40% three-point shooter we've seen. So Michael Porter, disappointing so far as well, which is unfortunate to say out loud. But yeah, so I think that's it then. That's our players of the week. And we are going to be doing this every week. So make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to audio podcasts. And we'll see you next time.